One hand and all, go back.
It's hard to move around rooms and work with new people and work with a new topic.
Okay.
Still, yeah, because,
Oh, well.
let's see, Linda, I didn't work with you yesterday, no.
You did too. I
Oh,
went to your
yes, the
festival.
local scoring, I was just talking.
Linda just came in and dropped extra.
Yeah, I remember that. That's why I brought it up today.
I was gonna say, thank you for singling me out.
I know,
And for the record,
Linda
and then also did, I started it.
And started it. I love it.
For the record.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, I would say that as Julia was listing the things that we were supposed to do today, I was like, lofty goals.
Well,
We always
she
had,
scared me saying there were gonna be too many people gone.
I know.
Yeah, it was
We
also,
don't have enough time because they were talking about trying to truncate everything.
finished by noon.
yeah, finished by noon.
Wow. I mean, that sounds great, but how?
Yeah.
Well, because then she was like, oh, then we'll come back in a large group. I was like, okay, that seems to flow. And then she's like, and then we'll break out into small groups. And again, I was like, by three? We're gonna have the other two.
To be fair, from like a facilitator point of view, I think the first go round, they really were thinking, oh, an hour, like way back when in like September
Yeah,
or November, whenever we started. But I do feel like since then you guys have been like, it's not gonna be an hour.
Yeah.
We're gonna say an hour,
Yeah.
but we're gonna be able to cut like these
Yeah.
three things at the end.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's,
It
yeah,
has to, yeah.
that's how we've kind of framed
Yeah.
everything, right? This is our ideal. It's never gonna happen. Try this.
Yeah.
Oh, good. The interim actions did get posted in there.
Okay. Are we
Okay.
projecting on
Yeah,
the
are you,
screen?
somebody
So
gonna,
wait, oh, but I thought we were the first group.
I've been trying to refresh and it won't
Well, I don't-
refresh for me. Someone gave a different
won't?
slide number than the slide number I was looking at, and I was like, "Oh, I have an out of date. I need to just maybe I close
It's
it."
still
Yeah.
draft recommendations by theme.
Yeah.
Round one,
Yes.
which it should be round four, but we realized that if we make a new one for each round, it
There's
won't,
comments.
it won't transfer the comment.
Oh, okay.
So it's not worth,
yeah,
I mean, I almost think we should just keep renaming it, but it doesn't matter. I thought we were tasked with the first group, or that's what I thought I was coming into.
Yeah, we are.
first group, that's why.
But right now, the first group is orange and is local scoring.
Word changes to the TPA.
Okay,
Actual scoring.
that's what I meant to come to.
Yeah,
Is that where I'm at?
the
Yes.
purple color,
I'm
right?
in
Wasn't it
purple. I
purple?
wanna come to
Yeah.
Yeah, purple,
Okay,
yeah.
so you're
Changes
leaving.
to exam. That's us.
Yeah.
So we started 8.
So can I jump in first? Does that
Please.
bother anyone?
No.
Can one of you guys post it or?
Yeah.
protect it?
Let me.
Yes.
I can see if I can hop out of the Zoom.
Okay.
So I haven't jumped in this room, but I found myself,
It's right there, behind you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, but you
Yeah,
jump
he
in.
goes
Go
in
ahead.
that way,
Jump
he
in.
can share his screen.
Yeah.
so the reason that I felt compelled to come here this one, I haven't been in the purple group, but two, it's the one I found myself rereading and reading the slides over and over and over again last night and feeling a little uncomfortable with where we're at. Just from the standpoint of just because the feasibility report says it's going to be hard, I don't think that should deter us from doing the right thing.
Mhm.
And this opportunity is allowing us to completely throw out the current iteration of the TPA and reimagine it. And I think some of the changes here were being stifled by fear
Mhm.
that making too big of changes was going to be too hard.
The feasibility act.
And I just, that worries me. And
Right, and thank you for saying that, Mandy, because I feel like as the work group, we are an advisory group. I think I've come to terms with that emotionally.
Yeah.
That we're not the ones making the changes, but we're
Right.
advising, so whether our advice is feasible or not, that's up to the commission to decide, you know what I mean? And I feel like we need to go, like you said, with what we think is right. And they can do the compromising or the feasibility, but we're saying, look, this is the way it could and should be.
Mhm.
But you guys take it or leave it what we think, you know what I mean? I agree with you. I don't think we should make those considerations for the commission. They can make their own consideration.
I also wish, like, hindsight's always 2020. It was the first thing we talked about, right? Like, it was a but the
Yes.
thing about the first thing is we were all trying to figure out
what our purpose was.
and what our boundaries were,
Yeah.
and then what was coming up, like,
Yeah.
because there's so many duplicative
Yeah.
comments, right?
Mhm.
But then we never returned, where I think we probably learned things that might have impacted what we said.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think there's layers to this, but this to me is the meat of it. Like this group is the meat of it.
This is it. Everything else is tangential.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
in
I
our-
love it. Then I'm in the right group.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because even in our conversation yesterday, when we just got stuck on the whole loan grant thing, you know,
Right.
like we kept talking about like the feasibility and it's like, well, but I'm not gonna say no, something that could help just because this says it might not be feasible. Like, it doesn't, this doesn't.
It's not our job to
This
make it
doesn't, yeah,
feasible.
this doesn't really matter.
Right, thank you.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's like, that's CTC's job then.
It's
They
our
need
job
to
to
take it over.
Dream,
Yes,
Yes.
agreed.
and then for them to figure out how to make the magic happen.
I love
And
it.
there
Can we just
are-
put that? It's our job to dream.
It's our job to dream.
I will also add though, yes and.
Yeah.
If it goes to the board
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, no, we can't do this, they're just gonna shoot down. So we have to be mindful. We
Yes.
can dream,
Yeah.
but we have to be mindful. That's,
Let dream a little more realistic in their dream. Let's not to do too much of the pie in the
Convince
sky.
them that it's possible.
yes,
Yes.
that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
it's
Okay.
So they're
it's
willing
worthwhile.
and it's
Yes,
worthwhile.
yes.
I'm not gonna tell them
So
to give
in
everyone
my
unicorns.
opinion, so let's look through our slides. Let's go to 9.
Okay.
I don't see any comments on here, and I'm guessing we don't see comments on here because
I liked it.
it's good.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think,
Wait, can
I
I
don't-
read it again? It might be because I got
yeah,
overwhelmed and
this is the
decided not to
culturally
read.
responsive piece, and this was
Oh,
really
okay.
important to the commission and to our work group, right?
Yeah, no, I'm good with this one.
I'm wondering, should we take the red out though at the top? I don't think that needs to. Or
Why is
maybe
it
leave
red?
it on.
Why is it red? Was there a?
No, it's someone, it's a flag, basically.
Were you in that room?
Yeah, I was here yesterday when that was written. I think it was Shayna who wrote it and she raised in light of like the federal climate and just making sure like it was all support for what they were doing, but is this putting up for liability or is there, you know, so I think it was just raising as a consideration, not so much for the recommendation itself.
I can also say like in the state of California, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm privy to the fact that certain county office of eds have gone away from DEI and like removed it from all websites type of thing.
What?
DEI,
Exactly.
diversity, equity, inclusion measures.
Oh.
So that's the money that the federal administration is withholding from school districts if they continue to have DEI programs.
They also have like posted like Google Forms for people in the public who are interested to be able to report
Yes.
anyone that has that posted or is teaching with
So-
that in mind.
And I
God.
Like
don't
Big
mind,
Brother, yeah.
I don't mind saying this on the camera. Our district has a
We still
DEI,
are.
has
We're
a,
gonna continue using culturally responsive.
yes,
pedagogy.
has a DEI program,
No,
and
it's not
I
like that.
proudly served on that committee for 2 years,
Me too.
and yeah, so it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, so this is, we care about people.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we're gonna
So we
continue to
are-
care
But
about
the
people.
idea
Not just
is,
we care about people, but it's that we want to make sure that the lessons and the
Mhm.
assignments from the TPA
it's like that.
ask candidates to be mindful and culturally
To
responsive.
integrate this into their, yeah, practice.
Right.
I'm worried about the only thing I'm worried about here is the word lessons.
Wait, hold on.
I think we
Word.
might want to write activities required for the TPAs.
Why would?
Yeah, why
we-
would you do activities over less?
Because we, like,
Because
Right.
if we're really breaking it up into smaller components, we might get away from doing a full,
Lesson, you might chunk things out.
yes.
And honestly, so some of the things, I mentioned this yesterday, inadvertent consequences to the interim actions that flew, right? I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but if we're removing condition codes, does that mean now for my 1 lesson, 3 clip thing, can I submit over 8 days and everyone have changes of clothes? Because that's now
Yes, you
not,
can.
right? Because that's now,
Yes,
so all of a sudden I could actually work on the TPA throughout the course of the year with that interaction. And I just don't know that everyone recognizes that outside of the room. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I just realize there are major shifts that I don't think everyone necessarily understands. Like the video edit thing threw a lot of people. And it's now not just video edit. The recording can be after school
yes.
with 2 students that you ask to stay behind and may not be as authentic because of that, right? Like because there's no longer condition codable.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
So you're saying with the activities, then when we were, it can be used in different places where if it's an entire lesson, it has to be.
You can
Well,
chunk it now.
I think
Yeah.
there's more to the TPA than just lessons. And so I'd like all of this lens to be applied to the whole piece, not just a lesson.
Yeah, and does the word activities address strongly enough what you're saying? Or do you want to put something else in front of them, or?
The other thing that I think could work without adding a new word would just be recommends that the TPAs be.
Yes.
So hold on, if you take that out. No, if you
TPAs.
nope, delete, don't add anything. Just
Just delete.
strike out lessons required for the. Just like that.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so just
TPAs.
recommends that the
Yeah.
TPAs be centered
Mhm.
around, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
all
no,
that's
that's great.
inclusive.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Is
is,
that okay
that
with
is
everyone?
stronger, I believe, then, yeah.
I keep thinking maybe we move that red down into the bottom speaker notes, but maybe not. Maybe we do need to, but we can't send it to the commission like that.
No.
So I do think we need to move that either into a comment or down on the, maybe above where it says original down in the speaker's notes and keep it red. You're really typing right now with your fingers, by the way. I'm happy to.
I'm just copying and pasting, it's fine. And we can do this, center it a little bit. Do you want me to comment too, or do you just want to leave it in speaker notes?
Let's comment too, just so people see that it's there. I don't want anyone to think that we're dismissing the concern. Do you think we should also comment and just explain why we struck that through?
And our group,
Yeah, just
I
to,
mean, I can type that. The third group felt that this recommendation. All right, so now let's move to,
This is where the comments start. I like that they separated these.
I like that they separated them to,
What we mean by that is it's the same thing in two slides. One's about what the candidate does and one's about what the assessment structure is.
I think it would be easier if we took the strikeouts out now.
You would,
Is that comfortable for everybody if we do that? Because I found that to be confusing last night. So now this is the entirety of what we're saying should be changed about the assessment.
right.
And I'm concerned that it doesn't go far enough.
so,
Well, I've made a comment like, although I think they might have, like, we're talking about how it needs to be UDL, which is what programs are built around. Like all teaching programs are meant to be built around UDL. But then we're not calling out like multiple ways of, I mean, like video recording versus writing, which has been a theme that has come up, is that this is a writing assessment, right?
Yeah. Was anybody, so we weren't in the room. I'm just wondering this white square at the top where it says assessment structure to ensure equitable access.
My assumption is it's separating, this is assessment structure, this is candidate.
Okay, so we can take that little box. But I like how it's saying to ensure equitable access, which it does not actually say in there.
Correct. I think that's the theme we're supposed to be capturing.
I think it should be written in there,
Yeah.
right?
I'm having a really hard time with that really long sentence there. The RDI TPA work group recommends the requirement of TPA sponsors to conduct universal design for learning analyses of. So I feel like almost that's like a sentence in and of their respective TPA for redesign in assessment structure to include but not limited to. Can we chunk that up? That's
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't to me.
It
Yeah.
could just be recommends that the TPA be redesigned to universal design for learning,
Here, I'm gonna go up above.
please.
Does that work? And let's rewrite it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try to spell the right.
You're anonymous
Yeah, I
anteater.
know.
I guess so. I'm an anteater today.
You went to UCI, I didn't.
Let's see what Jason said too.
I was thinking the same thing as my husband went to UC.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Only-
Go anteaters.
Yeah.
Let me go get my tea. Oh. Good thing again.
But see, to me,
Design.
these two little things are not redesigning.
Yeah,
Those are, okay,
that's like adding things, not redesigning.
yeah. I'm gonna push those down a little bit here.
So Jason's comment is interesting.
Okay.
It's like it was just rather than the audit, but see, to me, this
That's what
doesn't
I'm
seem like
saying.
an audit.
The things that he put here are not necessarily candidate facing.
Right. Now he's saying the TPA revision should align with UDL practices.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's, and I think that's what the whole group wants.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's rewrite this sentence to say that first. The RDI TPA work group recommends that the assessment structure of the TPA be redesigned to align with universal design for learning principles.
Yep.
Okay,
But then I started talking about like stakeholder input. I feel like that's covered in a different recommendation.
selection from diverse candidate.
It should be like a reporting, right? Because it's input collection from diverse candidate populations.
Well, I know we talked yesterday, one of our groups was about creating a survey that's in.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, I
like
saw
that's
that. Yeah,
collecting
yeah.
from
Yeah, I feel like that would belong there.
mapping of UDL.
Yeah, so that's.
Oh, okay, so let's look back at what the original piece of the. I mean, this was all, oh, you guys were losing so much.
Do you want me to
This was
undo any of the deletes I did a while ago? Okay.
No, I'm just pulling back, I'm just looking at all of
Like the strikeouts.
the original,
Yeah.
which I
see
appreciate.
that,
I didn't
yeah.
even think about
Keeping those down there.
keeping those in there. I'm gonna, just for purposes of our work right now, I'm gonna make a slide 11 real quick that just has the original so we can look at what it was. Because this is the one that was specifically talking about reducing how much.
Mhm.
Oh, Lord, it was long. Oh, they combined three. That's what happened. This was so it was three different original ones. So this was the one about streamlining the TPA exam structure and reducing the amount of pages, reducing or streamlining the rubric instructions, eliminating. So by combining this one the way they did and rewriting it, it took away the whole duplication piece, which was one of our charges. It also took away incorporating contextualized real world teaching scenarios, which was another piece that we needed. Did you need us?
Nope.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's dropping?
Yeah, I remember being a part of this original group that came up with this slide. So what it looks like now is nothing like
It's
what the
nothing like
intent
what-
of the original slide was.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
That
So-
I made a comment on this one,
Yeah.
right, giving different
Yeah.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Me too. So can you go back up to 10? Let's
Yeah.
look at that again together. So
This has
I
nothing to do.
still don't mind. I like this first sentence that we kind of reworded from what their ideas were.
Mhm.
But I think we need to go back to some of the original things. I mean, we could almost just say the TPA exam structure should be. Hold on, I'm gonna lift this really quick and pull it up. So
I wrote, just so you know.
I see where you're at. Let me pull it down there then. Oh, okay, I like this idea. And
Yeah.
then now you're bullet pointing.
Yep, exactly.
Then you can put the street, yeah,
All those other stuff as a bullet point.
yeah.
I think it should be the exam structure should be adjusted, and then we can say
To include.
to streamline. Does that work?
Yes,
Streamline rubric.
to eliminate.
Incorporate.
This is that part that we're gonna do at the end,
Yeah, that's
right?
the
Uh-huh.
rationale or theory.
So
of
we can
that.
take that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it in the, so we don't lose it, I'm gonna put
Yeah.
it here in the comment, the speaker's notes.
I don't think it's rubric instructions. I think it's rubrics.
I agree.
Mhm,
I don't,
Streamline rubrics.
mhm.
But I think that should be at the bottom. I don't think that should be the first thing we're doing here. Right? We want it to
Mhm.
eliminate duplicative activities, incorporate contextualized real world scenarios, streamline rubrics.
well, I'm gonna go back to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Provide opportunities, make it not a writing exam. I don't know how else to say
yeah,
that.
exactly, to provide.
Can we just write
opportunities
that, just like not focus on writing, but allow for multiple modalities?
Yeah,
Can
I think we could
make
just take that part right there, where
Yeah.
it says evidence for the TPA using multiple.
And
modalities.
Adam literally just called out, they're gonna put things out to the universe and see what comes back. I don't actually think that's a difficult thing with today's technological age, where do you want to record yourself
Yeah,
or do you want to write it?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
what's this bottom? Oh, the multiple chunking.
Right, like
Oh, that
that's
was in there
all
too.
completely gone.
Yeah,
You guys, I was like,
that was
no.
the thing I was most
That's what
excited
we were talking,
about.
yeah, we were talking about that yesterday,
It's
about
all
the.
gone.
Yeah.
Wait, which one?
Chunking, like chunking the assessment
Multiple
out.
segments
Oh, yeah.
into, so you can put this piece in course one and this piece in
Yeah,
course.
so you would have your inclusion piece and you would have your EL piece and you'd
Yes.
have your methods piece and you have every, yeah.
So I think what happened, if I recall, is at one point they were like, oh, if we go to local scoring,
Mhm.
but then the problem is if local scoring doesn't fly, and
Yes.
I've heard voices both pro and con on it.
Mhm.
If that doesn't fly, then we
Yeah.
lose the heart of, and so that's the danger of removing things from like a
Yeah, making
duplicative.
assumptions that
Yes.
it's gonna get
Yeah.
taken
Yes.
care of in another,
Yeah.
okay.
And we are,
And I was in the group for
Yeah.
local scoring yesterday, and like local scoring can be conceptualized many,
Yes.
many different
Right.
ways.
We-
Like a portion of it.
Yes.
Right, 'cause remember we did that, Ben, like we had bullet points, like it could be 10% of the total amount of submissions. It could be one question
Mhm.
in all the
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
and it's
So-
who is actually the local universe? Is it, remember we were talking about, is it just the university? Or is it then just the university supervisor? Is it the
Right.
mentor teacher? Is it site administration? What is it, you
Yeah.
know?
Who is
So-
the
And
the
we're,
local scorer?
yeah, nobody's, we haven't
Right.
come to a consensus on,
No.
on what that local universe looks like yet.
Which is interesting because we did.
Yeah.
We have a definition we all agree on, but as we've gone out into
Yeah.
our small groups,
Wait,
we're
did we have
still
a
using,
definition?
yeah,
What was
we
the
did. We
definition?
spent a whole day coming up with that definition.
What was
But
it?
well, we're not using it, so
No, but what was it? What did we come up with?
we said that it was local, meaning someone at the university.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's how I
Like
looked at
living
it.
in the institution.
Yeah.
Well,
The
well, that's
institution.
what we had talked
that's
about,
not
living
what
as in one
everybody-
of the, because it's adjunct considered living at the university.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, I think, it's interesting to me. The one thing I just don't know is can people handle it? Like, can universities handle it? And if not,
We don't have to worry about the feasibility.
no, you're right.
Because we did talk about that, because as someone who's been a university supervisor, just talking with Julia, well, she's not here anymore, but she requires more of her university supervisors at Fresno than what they would require me at Cal State LA. And I'm like, well, you're gonna have to make sure that that flies, but that's not
With
our
the
problem.
union.
Yeah, exactly, with CFA, but that's not our, that's the feasibility,
But
that's
if the
somebody else to figure out.
exam is rewritten
Mhm.
to be coursework,
Yes,
And it's just an assignment you give.
yeah.
Shouldn't you be grading the assignments you give? And is that an increase in workload?
Well, that's what
It
we were
is because you
talking
have to
about.
enter it into
If
a
it's the
system.
university supervisor, it is, but if it's in coursework, meaning in one of their courses.
Like if
So-
I teach the class on methods,
Yes, then it would be, it would just
the
replace.
lesson is one of my assignments I'm giving.
So I can say also one added thing, accreditation activities. We are not allowed. So for accreditation, I don't know if you guys know how this works. We have to submit evidence that we introduce, practice, and assess each standard.
All of the TP.
And we are not allowed to use the TPA as any of those metrics. Meaning it has to
But this
duplicate.
would change.
As long as that's the accreditation thing though, which is a
Right.
whole different, which right now there's no recommendation for.
Then can we add that as
See
a
what I'm saying?
recommendation if that's a,
There's no recommendation to change accreditation practices to incorporate TPA as one of the allowable assessments. Meaning, I have to allow my students, currently the way it's, my students have to
I
practice.
thought we did make that change, but you're saying
I
that
haven't-
this actually says that.
I have not heard any change. Granted, I'm not in accreditation year this year. We just finished accreditation.
but
I thought that was
then-
the whole thing we
then
were
I
doing.
think that we should add that in the recommendation then. So because if that's a hurdle to what we are suggesting,
It's the reason why duplication exists. And
right? So then let's say that.
Okay,
Right.
so by saying eliminate duplicative activities, are we giving the direction that could still be that could allow that to happen?
yeah, maybe we could say allowing
Mhm.
the TPA to be an allowable accreditation.
Yes, let's write that.
Well, that doesn't go here,
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Where's it go?
but
Because I think
not
that's
in the,
really,
not in the purple boxes.
okay, but I think that's really important because that was, like, Ben, remember how I kept saying, like, why don't we just do it in the class? Like, why are we doing a fake one
Right.
as a practice and then making the interns do another one for the TPA? And that's duplicative. That's annoying.
Well, and I'll let you know, like our program is now embedding it into class, but to your point about grading.
Yeah.
It now just means they have more to grade because I can't get rid of the previous activity. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that's
you have
not,
signature assignments or whatever that you're required for each one of those courses.
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's not the intent of any of this,
No.
right? To add more work for.
No.
That's not the
Well,
intent.
my people aren't unionized. So for me, it's
Yeah.
less of a big deal because everyone's on temp contracts at a county office level.
Yeah,
But at a university,
yeah,
but Sacramento County.
Oh, you're Sacramento County.
Yeah.
yeah, but at a university level.
But at a university level, I can imagine faculty being like, that's not okay, appropriate. For me, I'll just be like, I'll pay you more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got you.
Yeah. And paying more is not really in the CSU vocabulary
Yeah, right.
at this time, yeah.
I've lost all ability to put. Oh, there we go. Nope, I didn't want to add a slide. Why can't I comment? There we go, I see it now.
I do think this is so much stronger.
Mhm.
Well, I think it was one of those yesterday when we were like, let's consolidate. We have 50 recommendations. And I think we all, well, my group, we went to Happy GBT. Sorry, I don't use it. So what is it? Chat GBT. We were happily Chat GPT, all the slides like psh, consolidate. And then, okay, now we got one slide. But like you said, in doing that, we lose. And for me, I like lots of bullet points because I think I like things highlighted. I think when you have big paragraphs, you lose
Mhm.
something.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna bring up that the should, can we come up with a more powerful word?
Shall? That's
Shall.
that mean that's
Yeah.
a legal term.
Yeah, shall.
I was gonna
Be
say
adjusted.
will.
Yeah, okay, I can go with shall, that's good.
Shall,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Shall be adjusted.
Is there anything else that we're
That we
missing?
miss.
I was thinking the appropriateness to beginning teacher, but that takes people to agree on what's appropriate for a beginning teacher.
Yeah.
I felt like that was somewhere that we were pretty.
It was.
Wait, what we
It goes
just-
back to when we were talking about changing it to.
And then we talked
Teaching.
about induction versus,
Yeah.
and then we talked about continuum.
Okay, wait, going back to what we just talked about, Mandy, and Ben about the accreditation and using, where are we sticking that?
Now it
That's
belongs
not
in
our
accreditation.
slide. Yeah,
There's a
that's
whole
in the like
accreditation.
green section,
Yeah.
orange section. It's not in our
It's these
section.
guys right over here.
Green and orange, so do I walk over there? Because actually, that's really important to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can
could.
if you
Oh,
want.
I don't know what room that,
I don't either.
Okay.
I mean, go
Just-
through and figure out
Say,
what room.
Okay.
Are you
or
on?
Green or orange,
oh.
okay.
She's gonna look it
The
up.
big, the big room in the back.
Or I can just
158.
add it to a comment on my green and orange. What slide number would that be while you're at it, honey?
45 through 53, which many of them have been crossed out. It starts at 45.
Okay,
Okay,
I was in the green room.
to be appropriate for beginning teachers, I'm still on slide 10.
Yeah.
I'm
Or
keeping
even
changes.
pre, I'd even be more
What
specific,
did we,
pre whatever
what
teachers.
did we say it was?
Yeah, we changed the language to credential candidate, I believe.
Yeah,
Credential candidate. yeah.
because beginning teachers is broad and you could be
Yes.
talking induction, you could be talking,
Mhm.
right?
And we talked about beginning teachers as the teachers that were
Well,
in the classroom.
And I'm thinking if
Yeah.
we're chunking and I'm looking at chunk number 1 and I've only been through one course, I'm not a beginning teacher.
No.
I'm an early
Yes.
candidate.
You're trying to figure out what
Right.
you're doing, yeah.
What are kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
As
credential
is the
candidate,
case with the secondary, okay.
yeah.
And then there's the secondary pass, so I'm going back to 11 right now
Okay.
on things that were deleted. We did the chunking part.
Okay,
No.
Mandy, can you go back to the chunking part? I'm wondering if.
Yeah.
We can go back to the slide.
Sure.
If the way we state it, if it's understood, to chunk the assessment submissions into multiple smaller chunks. If that's explicit enough for them to understand that, at least this is what I thought our intention was. Our intention was that it could be done first semester, second semester,
So,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
And not just, oh, we have cycle 1, cycle 2.
Mhm.
Like, the whole purpose of it is smaller chunks,
Coursework, yeah, right?
That align with coursework.
yeah,
Yeah.
to differentiate.
Different courses, yeah.
Like theoretically, they could model something where there's like a dashboard and
Mhm.
you could do it out of order or in order, and these are the things that are listed, like the concrete skills, and cool, I'm gonna do this skill today. You know what I mean?
What I don't want, but I know there needs to be flexibility for different programs and that all programs operate differently. But what I would not like to see as an outcome is that they just put a TPA course at the end
Yeah, right.
and then
That's what I mean.
chunk it by doing one assignment at a time and then it's all done.
I agree. I actually think by chunking it, programs can embed easier.
That's, well, that's the intent of what we're trying to do. I'm just trying to think of what could be the unintended consequences, right, that you were talking about earlier. And I'm nervous that some programs would just push it off to the end. And then-
Coursework, that's what I'm saying, line with course, something about timelines, so that, you know what I mean, with the intent of.
Progresses, the assessment
Progresses throughout the coursework
progresses throughout a credential,
program.
the entirety of a credential. Yeah. Is progresses the right word?
No,
I wouldn't,
I mean, embedded's the word.
yeah. Which we said back here.
Basically, that's what we're saying, but not as a final submission.
Okay.
Just the intent that the assessment is formative instead of progresses throughout the entirety. Okay.
Hi,
He missed you.
greetings. No, you may not give us.
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
No, thank you.
Change all of it. I got a question for Ben. You put in a comment IPA. What does that stand for?
Yeah.
Hey, are you accreditation? Are you program standards like 5?
Look at it.
Wants you to add.
So one of the things we were talking about is actually in line with what you just said. So for accreditation, programs have to submit for every single TPE element, like each of the things candidates have to master. We have to show how we introduce that skill, how they practice it in coursework, and how they are assessed on it.
Mhm.
So that's what IPA is, introduce, practice, assess. And we have to do that for every TPE element across the board in a strong way for
Why not
accreditation.
show that in the process?
So I'll show you. So like, here's our SCOE accreditation website.
But they review your documents or?
They review our documents that go directly to our syllabus or our slide decks that we use during courses.
So we would just need that
Remember, I think
that
that's-
recommendation to say, allow TPA assessment results to be used in the accreditation process. Which is what we want anyway,
Right.
but right now it's not allowable.
We can't use the
So
TPA as an
programs
assessment,
Can't do that to show that they've taught the TPE.
which is why it's duplicative, because we have to show outside of the TPA how we assess, and then they take the TPA. You see what I'm saying? So they end up doing the same skills twice. So, and that's
That's why it's duplicative.
exactly.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what IPA
Any
means.
more? My
And,
brain
Hold
can't-
on, that's all he can hold.
okay,
He'll come back.
I'm done.
Wait, Ben, can
IPA,
you just go to the comment section for me? Because I love what you just
allow the
said.
TPA to be used for the assessment accreditation component.
Yeah, and this is what it looks like. So we have this massive document where all of our courses are laid out, and we're like, here's how we introduce this. These are the practices we have. These are the assessments we have for every single TPE. It's not like WASC. Like, it's not like WASC.
Yeah.
It's painful.
WASC is painful too.
No, it is. I just mean it's maybe they look at every single standard across the board. And when I taught high school, not college, so I don't know how it changes with the universities, but like it wasn't this.
No, it
Where we
wasn't.
have to provide multiple samples of evidence across all courses on how we teach each individual standard to fidelity.
What's the P again?
Practice. So it's like guided practice.
You can do it. Go.
Okay, but Ben, what you just said.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Say that again.
What you just said,
Yeah.
can we go to that slide, the green slide, just write it in the comment, please, because I love what you just said. I got part of it though, I was trying to quote you here.
We know which one. Oh, where did I leave IPA feedback?
Do a control find.
Oh, good point. Nope, it's not gonna pick up on comments.
Oh, darn it.
It was blue, green. Do we remember what color?
No, it's not blue. It's not green.
I haven't looked at blue slides, so it must be blue.
But see, I just saw that green slide talking about embedding, which we just included in this purple one.
Yeah, that's
Oh, this
that's
is
the
not-
downside.
Yeah,
But it's okay. It can live in different
it
places.
can. It can.
And embedding's part of our charge. Like I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's gonna be like, don't embed.
Yeah.
No.
Where's program? It's gotta say like program standards. This is what we're supposed to be doing right here, purple.
Wait, do control F, program standards.
Uh. There's too many. Oh, green, it is green. Program standard 5. These are still crossed out.
Yeah.
I thought she said they weren't.
Says becoming
No,
around that.
No, they still are. That's what she was saying, is these are not interim actions. They
Yeah.
need to be pulled back out. So I'm hoping whoever green is actually going through and pulling these back out.
Yeah. 'Cause
That was.
we both left. I left a comment, then you left a comment, then I responded to the comment like,
It's not.
these are not covered.
These are not covered. But even if they are covered, cover them again.
Yeah.
Well, I told you, I was in the green group and we were happily consolidating.
It is
honestly.
here. It is here. This is the slide.
Okay, so go ahead.
Oh, Kathleen responded.
Yay,
Thank
okay.
you, Kathleen.
So what was it
Oh,
that,
it was like, okay, allow TPA results to be used in the accreditation process.
instead of results, I'm gonna say like assessment
Okay, yeah,
or
okay,
questions?
yes.
Okay.
So that there isn't an extra assignment. And then something, and then this is why it's duplicative. Okay. There was something else you said, I didn't catch that part. Okay,
Allow TPA assessment question tool, they can decide to be used in the accreditation process, so there's not a duplicative task for credential candidates.
yes, thank you.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna go back in my thing and put like whatever Ben said, yes, because Linda feels very strongly about this. No, because I do, I think that's the part that really is frustrating when you are going through this process, and that's why it's duplicative. Like, why did I do this assignment for all these classes, and then now you're telling me to do it again for the TPA? Why couldn't I just get over
That's the
it?
duplicative part. I'm going to recommend that we resurface this whole section 3 on the slide 11 right now.
Okay,
I think that should be pulled back and should maintain or be maintained as its own.
Sure.
I mean, I don't have a problem with us putting the chunking up in slide 10 as well.
yeah,
But I think the bulk of what this is about is really making sure people understand that the TPA is an assignment in the course.
One of the
Yes.
commissioners on the meeting said something like, the TPA is not the key, it's an element for a credential. That's what one of the commissioners
Oh, God,
said.
I'm quoting you.
yes.
Not a key. Can we just use that word?
Okay,
Not
so
a
I'm
key?
gonna erase those others because I feel like
Yeah,
we
we
embedded
covered
those,
those.
we covered those.
Okay, say it again, not a key, but an element
For credentialing.
for credentialing. Okay, I think we should use that language, because if that's the language they're using, that's language, because that will highlight and, like you said, draw their attention to it. Because I
Okay,
think
hold
that's.
on, what did you say it again?
Okay.
How did you write it down?
Commissioner said that the TPA should not be the key. I don't remember what a commissioner said. I wrote it in my email to
But
myself.
an
But
element
an
for
element.
credentialing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm quoting.
Sounds
that over
like
here.
Brown.
It was either an element or a factor. It was like one of those two things, but that was the idea behind it.
But an element of assessment?
But an element
Credential.
to earn a credential, meaning like this is not the one measure.
yeah, it
This is
shouldn't-
not the thing you have to pass to get it, but something to
yeah,
consider.
it's not the end all be all summative
Yeah.
thing, barrier that's keeping you from becoming a teacher. It should just be a part of.
Element to earn a credential.
They should quote that and put it like on the CTC like
Yeah.
webpage. So you go there, yeah.
Can we just put that in quotations per CTC
Yeah.
personnel quotation?
Commissioner.
Now,
Yeah.
the problem is, okay, so when you look at the local scoring one,
Mhm.
which I still am gonna vote no on the way that it's currently written, because I personally don't agree with it at all. That a portion can be locally scored, but that would contradict this, because this says the TPA should be coursework that's assigned and evaluated, that means graded by
Right,
the faculty member. So this is defining local scoring as the faculty member.
Mhm.
The local scoring slide defines it differently.
but we're saying that,
That's where the contradictions are. And I
It's-
think we'd all need to be honest about it out on the floor.
I also think, so there is a part of fear from institutions where we've been told not to score
Mhm.
if they submit to the state, because if our scores don't align with, all of a sudden that opens up a litigious.
Yes. Well, I mean, I sat in a room yesterday and heard from someone who said, when my candidate asked me why didn't I pass,
Mhm.
I couldn't tell them
I've had that.
because I would have passed them.
Yep.
And to me,
I've had things
that
like
is
too.
the broken part of this system.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because if you are credentialed
Mhm.
or qualified to be the professor, evaluating the rest of their work and preparing them,
Yeah.
and you can't figure out why.
Yeah.
There's a problem. And I don't think the broken piece is the professor.
Yes. I agree.
right, well, I was gonna say, Mandy, I see what you're saying, but I'm also seeing I'm gonna play a devil's advocate, because we're saying that it can be used in coursework, but the way the way I'm looking at the TPA, remember, we're looking at Cal TPA or Ed TPA or FAST. So the three different assessments are similar, but they're nonetheless different. So like one section of the TPA, if it's done, let's say in your methods course, and he's like, okay, I want you to do the video submission and it's part of my class, and whatever you did in my class now can be submitted on the TPA platform. That, you know what I mean? that's one section of it, but the TPA is also much bigger. It's not just those sections. So there are sections that not every single section of the TPA may necessarily be covered in every single course. I mean, so universities
So-
can design it that way.
My response would be, I don't think by the end of this that Cal TPA, Ed TPA, and FAST are going to exist. I think something brand new is emerging. And it won't look like that.
But again,
And
that's an
but if
assumption you're
we-
making though.
Well, for me, that's the recommendation I would be making is I want a new iteration. And I think what we heard today is that's possible. They're gonna send it out
The
and
next
say,
generation. I think that's
Yes.
it.
this needs to be created.
Right.
And then Ed TPA people could send a proposal in
Mhm.
and it might be adopted or it might not, right?
Right.
But that, I don't think we should constrain ourselves by the tasks that are embedded in the current. Because I don't think that has to
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah,
Hi.
and I also to answer your question that the TPA assesses those TPEs that are in those courses. So we have to, for accreditation, meet all those TPEs and list them all in our syllabus to make sure that the students are getting that. So they are, or they should be, at least, if you're in an accredited program, all be in that coursework. Right? So there shouldn't be something that they're encountering in the TPA that is not something that they saw before. Right?
Julia, can you remind me, there was a time we were talking about accreditation and the fact that like you cannot put a TPA as part of your assessment for ICE, P's and A's. You could not actually use the actual tool for assessment.
know that that's true.
That's what I've been told by CTC when we submitted. By whatever group came and did our site visit. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Did you ever
that's-
use FAST as your assessment?
I don't think they did in the matrix, but we used it in the literacy certification.
Oh, interesting. We did not use it in the literacy, but granted, we don't have the tool yet. So how can we?
How could you? Yeah. Okay.
Then that shows how it's embedded.
Right. No, I agree. We were having a conversation on that
I
exact.
think what we were worried about is that maybe we didn't write a recommendation specifically saying that it should be allowed. And maybe
Because-
that's a missing component we need to get in.
Because of the duplicative nature at that point.
And then we were wondering out loud if by saying that it shouldn't be duplicative, will that be enough that it could prompt that change, or do we need to specifically call that out? That was the conversation we were having. And now we're grappling with the fact that one of the recommendations specifically says the faculty member grades it, which is in direct contrast with the local scoring piece on one of the green slides.
But it could also, if a faculty member is scoring something, that could become local scoring if it goes the local scoring route as like one of the scores. Or if we don't go the local scoring route, it's still embedded in coursework, assigned by the instructor, scored, and maybe then as an institution, I have to consider my own version of a rubric or something to reduce litigiousness of a candidate coming out. But at that point, still, there's going to be feedback and the assignment will be there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and this doesn't say scored either, by the way. It does say evaluated. And
Yeah.
so that means if you're my professor, you're looking at my work, you're evaluating, you're giving me
Give feedback.
I'm changing it
Not like
based
that.
on what you're saying,
Yeah.
and then it's scored.
Yeah. By
If
the
you steered
commission.
me wrong, that's a problem,
Right.
but that's,
But that also gets away from that litigious nature.
yeah.
Because
Okay.
we should not give
So then
scores.
maybe we feel comfortable
Yeah.
with the way that it's written. Okay, but I do think we need to repopulate this one.
Well, I was also gonna add, Mandy, that like there is a huge problem, and I think that is the huge problem we're seeing with candidates that are doing well in coursework because I'm not saying you, but because professors or instructors are like, you did a great job. I don't know why you failed the TPA. And then they fail at the very end of their program, like, but I got straight A's and now all of a sudden TPA
That's a
world
problem.
is saying, and that's a problem. And so for me, I feel like if it's locally scored, maybe instructors do need to be put under the gun. Like you need to be at a level where you're scoring it at the same level as TPA or your scores. What is that? That's calibration. That's training. And that your training should be at the level that if you say something is pass, it's a pass.
I was gonna, all of them are like, and then right here is the different forms. So this is what they did based off my original comment. It's the next, and then it's embedded in coursework. So I don't know though, but it says candidate demonstration of practice. So
Yeah.
it does make sense.
Okay, I'm just gonna erase the other stuff that's already included so
Yeah.
we can see.
How are you doing, Juliet?
I'm okay. I was phoning a friend on your
Question?
about, yeah,
Thank
Okay.
you.
but I don't have.
Phoning
I know for a fact the impression is because we do like county meetings where all county office of eds come together and talk.
Yeah.
And other county office of eds flat out have said, that was actually their one request of me bringing to this work group was make that part of the A's. Like, why is it not allowed to be there?
And that's, was, the response is not currently. We want to see how they are assessing candidate readiness, for the TPA.
But isn't that duplicative at that point?
Yes.
Which is part of our charge to change. Well, and this is what I mean, like, no matter what, we have to have them practice with guided practice, not assessment tool.
That makes
But I mean, the
sense.
A, to me, that is the assessment.
That is the A.
Right.
So
Thank
we
you, Betty.
gave
That's
it
my
to
fault.
the green
This is
group
making
who came in and
sense.
talked to us, but we haven't gone over this to make sure.
Okay, yes, and now we're
And
getting
we've
to
been
that part
told
of
we
it,
have to be duplicative.
Cause that would be a new,
which I feel like we've been
that
going.
would be a
on.
new recommendation that maybe we just didn't realize we weren't
Da-da-da-da.
doing when we thought we were.
Highlight that. I'm done. I'm done
Okay.
here. If you can just change this piece, I'm done. I feel like, oh, you made a difference. This is all I wanted from it.
Candidate demonstration of practice. And the other one was.
I'll have the other one on the screen here and then you can. I do think so. One of the things that's called out, submit evidence in TPA using multiple modalities is under candidate demonstration of practice as well.
Yeah, so there's some duplicative pieces here.
Okay, while I'm still in light bulb happy moment right now, I'm gonna go grab my computer so I can comment away. I
Oh,
wasn't,
that's a good idea.
yeah, I wasn't emotionally ready to comment yesterday. I just felt like, nah, I just wanted to put thumbs up and thumbs
Yeah.
down on everyone's line. I was one of those modes, but
You
thanks.
should just put the gif of like Gladiator, like the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it that you're ready now.
Thanks, Mandy.
Mandy, do you want me
Now,
to make any adjustments on 12 because of 13? Like, do you want me to eliminate the highlighted?
So is that specifically on,
Yeah, it's on 13.
in that language?
Not the exact language, but it's the same.
Okay,
Actually, the collecting multiple points of evidence for their teaching, I don't know if that's captured.
I think so.
Maybe we can take this bullet point and just move it and replace the other one.
I'm wondering, yeah. Okay, so this was about candidate demonstration. The other one was about how the assessment structure is realigned, right? Or redesigned.
Yeah,
So, okay, exam structure versus candidate
but they're
demonstration.
both the same thing, aren't they?
That's what I'm trying to, isn't the structure?
The structure will force the candidate to demonstrate differently or would allow the candidate to demonstrate differently. Is there anything that's candidate specific?
Yeah, it's this to submit evidence piece,
Yeah.
right? So let's lift that. I'm gonna take it out of this slide and put it into this slide. I think we might,
okay.
So that if other things occur.
Yeah.
so scared someone's gonna come in and give us more
I
work.
know that's.
Yeah.
Every time I go over.
guard
There's
against-
pointing happening.
That was
No,
one of your
they're
pieces
pointing.
that came over.
You said that piece about using the TPA.
Tool, the actual tool as an assessment, like we couldn't use the templates as part of our ISPs and As.
Yeah. I mean. Make that a recommendation.
Yeah, that's why we mentioned
Problem is,
it.
it's not in our,
You gave it away.
it's,
Yeah.
well, no, it's not in the purple section. Because
We
we're
talked
looking
to-
at changes to exam.
We made a comment in the green section about it just now, and then we talked to Jason about it.
And he was thinking about going to put it in, but we're worried that it might not have transferred. That's our concern right now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so this is the last one. No, it's not.
What, wait a minute.
This is the last one in the section that I came to this room.
Okay, for the exam, for this exam, okay.
But, okay, so if we're looking at candidate demonstration of practice, I'm trying to read this like gray square at the top and the white square and trying to follow people's.
Wait, Ben, what slide number did you put your recommendation? Because I need to put a big heart around your comments.
Who's in green? Wow, look at the amount of greens.
Like,
Oh, wow.
you guys.
Oh, wow.
We just,
Look
that's,
at that.
oh my gosh.
Okay, who's in the green?
wow.
I'm not the green anymore.
Things are gone.
Hmm.
That we've spent 6 months
Mhm.
pulling together.
Page 28,
Okay.
or slide 28.
Oh, wow.
I did.
It's the very bottom comment where it says
okay.
something about IPA and then I respond to
It's
myself.
almost like we did all this stuff to undo the stuff that we did, and now we're undoing what we undid
Yeah.
just yesterday.
Yep.
You know, wow. Whew. That's what I'm thinking, like, that's why I brought up the question about coming together as a large group, because I feel like.
But the problem is, how do you manage that with 51?
Well, that's what I was gonna say is I think this is the right way to do it, right? Because like if you look at a lot of the recommendations, it's like a sentence, but can we encapsulate in bullet points
Yeah.
some of those ideas and consolidate them into like, these are the thought processes.
Some of those bullet points don't, like, I just don't want one.
Yeah, right, to throw
the
them off.
CTC to throw the whole.
Right. And
what
that's-
I worry about.
Can commissioners,
Okay.
they would have the right though to be like, I
They
agree
can.
with this, but not that.
Uh-huh,
Yeah,
they can.
yeah.
Where did it go last time? Last time it was up here in my toolbar.
But the hard part is just like our own work group, right? There's gonna be people on that board that are gonna be so for or so against. But really, if we can just get to the heart of the intent, because the intent is all that matters.
Yeah.
What the intention of this recommendation is. If we can do that well, that is what will matter for moving something forward.
Mhm.
That's what I've learned. Like the union side is, because the language is never great. The language is not always great in like some form of egg code or,
Yeah.
but what is the intent
What's the
behind
intent
it
of
so
it?
that we know what to do?
And I'm still worried about, what you were saying, the local scoring piece is not anywhere near where I think it should be at the end of this process.
Well, a lot of people who, how do I say this nicely, who've been a part of this,
IG.
yeah, well, from back even before TPA existed, knows
Right.
the pros and cons of local scoring, remember?
Yeah. huh?
And because of their institutional historical knowledge,
Mhm.
it's impacting local scoring and how we may be conceptualizing it.
Mhm.
And I think their knowledge is not bad. It's just they know the pitfalls of it and they know the, like I said, the feasibility. It's a huge feasibility piece because it is a huge shift and change at university or at IHG, whatever.
Mhm.
It's huge, you know what I mean? And
But I-
so,
To add on to that, I also don't think that just because something has been hard in the past
right.
means that we shouldn't try.
Right.
And
No, I agree. with
my
you.
other, like, when I came into this, I am agreeing with you.
Right,
I'm just
okay.
adding to what you're
Yeah.
saying. But when I came into this, and I try to remind myself constantly, we're here because this isn't working for candidates.
Right.
It might be working for institutions,
Thank you.
I don't know that most
or
institutions.
institutions have adjusted to
Yeah, that might
work
be.
within it because they don't have a choice.
Right.
They don't have the opportunity to dream, right? They have to fit within
Yeah.
these
We have
constraints.
our rules.
Mhm.
But the candidate who's coming into it, when we're seeing 92% have a bad experience, it's wrong,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
It's not.
And there's
supporting-
opportunity for it to be better.
Mhm.
I
And
think,
then I think would be better for the institution as well,
oh yeah, no, I agree.
but might be hard.
One
Because
is
it's new.
almost every challenge in education that I've seen is always about centralized versus local.
Mhm.
And this idea of how much control does local get and how much control does centralized get. That's like the difference between like oftentimes district and unions, county and district, school site and district, right? Like
Mhm.
multiple is about who is controlling what and how
Yeah.
much, right?
And out of our discussion yesterday in local scoring, I have a huge concern that Pearson pays people to score this at $19 an hour.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I was like, I remember I was like, my jaw just dropped because I was like, well, you're not gonna get a university supervisor to do it for $19 an hour. That's minimum wage. So I'm like, I'm not trying to throw any shade on anybody, but I'm just trying to think like, I wouldn't score for $19 an hour.
19 an hour.
So, yeah, because when Julia came in, and she said, no, it's $25 an hour for training, $19 an hour for scoring.
How many hours is training? Do we know?
No, I don't know. So
I'm curious I'm trying to do math now to find out how many hours.
Yeah,
So,
and I was just.
But I mean, if that's what we're paying for people,
Mhm.
so that's 15 hours of grading for one submission.
And they don't let you grade more than like.
If we're just $300 submission, right?
Yeah,
For both cycles of Cal TPA or one cycle of Ed TPA. So if it's
But-
$300, it's saying that essentially they're spending 15 to 16 hours, 16 if you average it,
yeah.
on one submission.
no, but your entire fee's not going to pay.
No, I know.
No, yeah, he's
I
saying
know,
that.
they're for profit, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
that's-
so but how many hours is actually going into the
Probably
scoring and how much is going just to?
right.
Oh, okay.
That's
was
what I
gonna
meant.
say,
That's what I'm
the
calling it.
significant amount is going to
Yeah.
overhead
Yeah.
and.
Granted, they are paying for all their staff, like
Yes.
Pearson's paying all their administrative fees, all their staff.
Reliability standards,
right.
all of those things. I mean,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
does cost money. I
Yes.
don't want it to not say.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the
But-
people that are on this group, how many of us do or would score for?
None of us
$19?
do because
Yes.
all graders were not considered for this committee.
Yes, true.
So none of us are willing to do it.
Yes, yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
That all of
One of
those people
the-
were taken.
Just as a
Yeah.
bias.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
So-
you're getting paid to
Yeah,
do the
right.
work,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
so
then you
it's
might
double.
advocate for the work
The work, yeah.
that you're getting, but
But
although I
if
don't know
you're
why
being paid
you would.
$19 an hour.
I mean, seriously, coming from LA, that's minimum wage.
Well,
I'm like, wow,
You
that's.
do an hour at your school site, odds are you're making at least 60,
Yeah.
50 to, I don't
Yeah.
know, it depends what.
So I was, that added a whole other part in my mind.
I think slides 15, 16, going with this bullet point model that we've been following, and I'm not trying to move us along.
Mhm.
But I do think that these could be combined into bullet points because they are all at the same heart of
I think so too.
the issue of like CTC and supports to programs. So like CTC should support programs by convening, providing, right? Okay.
Yep. I'm gonna restructure 13 at the top to align with 12. Well, you start working on that. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
Do y'all mind if I step out?
You're good, man.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
What's it called, the IPA?
Yeah, introduce practice assessment.
When I saw that, then I was thinking something else when you said, I mean, where's he?
Definitely.
I want that.
That's the shorthand of what we call it. It's like one of the bigger accreditation pieces.
Use perform assess, right?
Practice assessment.
They're just laughing it up next door, having a great time. It's peering in their window.
We have a different IPA.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Love it.
All that work to your pinky. You don't even use your pinky when you type, you know?
You know what? I told the doctor it was quality of life was being affected, okay? Why do you have to judge? Look, you. Okay, I just wrote my dissertation. Thank you.
Oh, that's right, because you're leaving soon, right?
Yes.
Better not. Oh, better
There's
not.
Discontinue practice of the appropriateness of performance assessment tasks for credential candidates.
I don't think anything else can be added. You pulled up a
Not
slide.
anymore, but not anymore. Where's the text? Where's the font gallery? No. Cambria almost threw me off. Okay. What do you think? Can I like shrink anything here?
We put it on a different.
I took all the slides, combined them, and I also added my own bullet point.
Okay, is that the bottom one that you?
No, the one I added was this, although it comes up somewhere else, but I don't know if it made it through.
Okay.
Here's my problem with reading things like this is like, it's kind of like the one I'm commenting on right now. Like you read it at surface level, you're like, yeah, you just kind of nod your head like that all sounds good. But it's not until like, Mandy, I love what you're doing. Like you really talk about it and like, but look, we're missing this and we're missing that. And we're not, then I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? Like I'm reading through this and I like it back.
Oh, I just combined 3 slides. I literally copy and pasted.
Yeah, I do like this one because this actually helps with the local scoring piece, because this is where we're getting held up with the local scoring, but this doesn't actually say anything about local scoring, just about feedback.
Which I like.
Yes, which is good because then we can.
Because even if local
Yeah.
scoring doesn't get adopted, at
This can go.
least
This is in here.
Okay,
they're
Yeah.
getting
15.
feedback.
I'm
And
gonna put
this,
feedback
yeah,
on
and
that
it
one.
takes everybody into account, the administrators, mentor teachers, everything, but it's just basically what we're doing right now. And then if it does get included in the local scoring, great, but at least it's
Are you
there.
looking at this, the second, third, which bullet point are you looking at?
The
Top one is
yeah,
the-
the top one,
This one.
because this is where we were getting hung up yesterday in our local scoring, was this exact thing. Yeah,
Okay.
but if we put it here, I mean, it's just asking for multi-directional feedback, so if it doesn't.
I don't see this recommendation not flying.
Yeah.
This is literally, some of it is what CTC already kind of does, but
Yeah.
expanding it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like for instance, as a program, I have an example, multiple subjects, cycle 1 and cycle 2, but for single subject, I only get maybe 1 or 2 credential types. Maybe we should have all credential types represented so that
Yeah.
all people
Yeah.
can see what a passing and a non-passing, which actually we don't have,
Mm.
sample looks like.
I feel like that's a yes, of course we should.
That's what a good classroom practice is. So I just don't see this not going through.
Yeah.
But it seems really long. And so I'm like, how do we shrink, like, pare it down?
Yeah.
But they all kind of have the same heart. These are all supports from CTC.
Yeah, the one with the continuum of practice, that hasn't really been one of my skills, as we were using yesterday. So, I mean, if it sounds good to you all, I'm okay with it.
Which part?
The continuum of practice. I mean, I obviously think it's great to have a continuum of practice, but it hasn't been one of mine.
Well, I want
Yeah.
to bring
I
up,
think it should be there because I think I think there needs to be a little bit more discussion and work between the state board and CTC, and this illuminates that needs to be happening.
well, to me,
Because
it's,
why do we have two separate things?
It's
Why
that
do we teach them one thing
CTC
and then push them out
Yeah.
and evaluate them on something completely different?
and not just that,
Not right.
also like the very first question we grappled with, or one of the first ones was, is this appropriate to brand new teachers?
Mhm.
And then we got lost in the weeds of what is a new teacher? What is it? And then it was the verbiage, and
Yeah.
then we never really answered the question. I really think a continuum of being like, you know what, people in a credential program should be able to do this. People in their first year of teaching should be able to do this. I think having something like that, like a backwards map plan, which is what I would do for my students.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And there is one that exists
guide
on the website. So to speak to,
I never saw it though.
it's there,
Okay.
but it has like a roadmap on it.
Oh, is it the roadmap to teaching? Is that the thing we're talking about?
Well, there's that, which has all the cute little tree.
Yeah, right.
Right, but it's there, but I don't think that it's,
This is what I was thinking of.
oh, okay, well, there's that, which tells you how to get the credential.
Yeah, right.
Right? No, but there's one that has like boxes and it's side by side comparisons of the different. But to me, I think you're right. The TPE, I mean, maybe what we should have, which Mary would hate if she heard me say, maybe one of the recommendations really should have been that we should review
The
the
TPEs.
appropriateness of the TPEs
Yeah.
for a candidate,
Right.
not for a beginning teacher.
That's a whole other
But
group.
I-
So, yeah.
You also think about like, the only example I can think of in K-12, TK-12
Yeah.
education is TK. What do TK students use? Usually
Preschool foundations.
kinder standards too, right? Like you're bridging
Well,
that
that's
gap.
what, yeah, you're bridging.
Same thing, like
But
why
it's
are we
not-
not just CSTPs bridging? And they're usually fairly aligned, but the difference is now they're not, because CSTPs just got to rewrite next year, where now they won't be aligned.
Yeah.
And so it just creates an interesting dynamic.
So when was the last time the TPEs, with the exception of adding 7, when was the last time?
Four
they
years
were-
ago.
4 years ago?
Yeah,
And there was a whole
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like every 4 years, one of them gets updated, like the Olympics,
okay. It's okay.
summer or winter.
I love it. Collecting resources such as passing and non-passing samples.
But
I think the way that slide 15 is written is beautiful. And then it eliminates slide 16, right?
Yeah,
And it eliminates
slide
slide
17 is too.
17. So let's strike those out and move them to the bottom.
Okay.
Cool.
And then I would encourage us to use our remaining time to go back to 13.
Yep, I agree. So I'm gonna drag these two down.
This is one that we need to look at now.
So I think we should, in my opinion. I know that I was the one that said we should pull this out and make it its own again.
Mhm.
But I think we really should think about how it would be appropriate to either go into the exam structure or the candidate's demonstration of practice slides. And then we should just have 3 about the exam. One being the culturally responsive piece, which I think we all agree with, and it really needs to stand on its own.
Yeah.
And then the exam structure itself, and then the candidate, how the candidate experiences and responds.
So for this particular slide, we already moved the first part into another slide, didn't we?
So
Yes.
Yes.
we've already done chunking.
Okay, so we can take that part out, correct? And then we're left with, as is the case.
Which is, this is an quote unquote, if we're talking secondary passing rate, we're talking an interim action. Although to be fair, is also an action before the interim actions. They just,
So the secondary pass
They
rate was a
granted
CTC action last December.
yes.
So although nothing on here says to maintain it, I
No,
think
that's
the
why they said
assumption
call
is
out,
to,
call out all interim actions.
well, but the secondary pass rate was before, it's not an interim action.
I know, but they call it out as one. But you're right. It was like 2 months before, and then they put it in the interim actions as well.
No, it was a whole year before.
You're right. No, it was like March.
Yeah.
It was like
a whole year
March
ago.
last year.
Yeah, because that was the CTC's way to try to address
Yeah.
the call for the elimination.
right. I was
and it
watching-
wasn't enough,
Like
right?
watching all those commission meetings.
Yeah,
they were
that was
writing.
back in December. In the old building.
I just remember the commission meeting where it was like, okay, and it was just all public comments about get rid of the TPA, and then they're like, okay, anyone from the other side, and like, there's no one.
Crickets.
And I remember sitting there like, oh my gosh, like,
Nobody
Okay.
likes this thing at all.
Time check, how are things going?
We're actually really close.
Yeah,
We need maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
We need about 5 minutes and we'll be
Okay.
ready.
5
Is that good?
Which in this,
Okay.
in this kind of talk is probably more like 10 minutes.
Okay. Josh, we're
I'm
good.
just trying to think, you know,
The 2
you say
minutes.
5, but then it usually means something.
on this slide, is this secondary passing standard that you want?
That would be the only
Yeah,
thing.
that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So that's just a clause. So
Yes.
the meat of it was that coursework is assigned and evaluated by faculty is also used for the TPA submission. I don't think that part is in the exam.
Okay. And so that would go into
Um,
slide 11, you think, or?
Yeah, so if
Okay.
we just lift, I don't think we need to say as with the secondary pass rate, right? But if we just go back up to 11, I'm just gonna put it at the bottom and then we can,
Okay.
Yeah.
um,
It's most in common with this, but I think there are also two different trains of thought. One is that throughout the course of the program, they're submitting things.
yes.
And then one is that it should be done in coursework what they're submitting.
Yes.
But is this also mentioned in the one that we just said before with the faculty, LEAs, administrators, mentor teachers? Are we saying the same thing or are we saying something different? You know what I mean?
Say it again.
Because remember on the other slide, we had the thing with the LEAs, administrators, everybody that says that they would provide feedback. Is this different than that first point?
This is, they're giving feedback in a multi-directional thing to CTC about the performance assessment.
Gotcha.
This is more about like feedback on the actual submission.
Fantastic.
Different forms of feedback.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm gonna move it
Yep.
right there.
Yep.
Okay,
And do you want allowing or do you want it to be something that is,
Requiring?
yes, required?
yes, I wanna go back to,
Yeah.
um.
Which one are we looking at right now?
Looking at this one, or this one, sorry.
The only other piece of that other one was
Secondary pass.
without expanding.
Yeah, but that, yeah, that isn't that the accreditation
I mean,
thing we just talked
Yeah, I
about?
think we can't really put that here, right?
That's the thing that you just commented
I
on.
think we just say
Yeah, just leave it.
requiring TPA segments
Thank
to
you.
be assigned and evaluated.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Assigned, evaluated, and submitted. I think that's what we were really going for.
So can you put it back on number 11 for us, Ben? Yeah. That's okay.
What's this?
It's submitted in coursework. Okay, yeah, because it's submitted. Yeah, that's what we were talking about, the chunking, yeah. And requiring, then it becomes something that all programs would have to do.
Question, is requiring of submitted in coursework mean local scoring?
It does not say local scoring.
So I know, but
To
what do you mean
me,
by submitted?
Yeah.
Are you submitting the
Put it out
TPA?
into the platform. Yeah.
So, okay, so it's not submitted
like
to your
while I'm
teacher,
in
it's
your
submitted.
course,
I see.
you
Love
don't
it.
just give it to me and I hold it till the end, but
Fantastic,
I'm submitting it.
cool.
While I'm in your class.
When I read it, I was reading as like, this is local scoring now, but that
Yes,
makes sense.
That's what I was
Good.
with that,
Thank
yeah.
you.
That
So,
way so we don't have a program that holds all their things
Yeah.
till the end and still does it as a final.
but it could also mean local scoring too as well.
It could,
Yes.
I think this goes
Yes.
with local scoring.
Yes, it goes with, but doesn't have to be. So they can still use whatever platform they choose to use.
Five, right?
I changed into during then, does that make sense?
Yeah. Should we say submitted,
During class?
well, no, I'm thinking submitted to the TPA platform. Do we need to say that?
I thought about it, but if local scoring goes,
Yeah, I wouldn't, I
You see what
would
I'm
leave
saying?
it, yeah, I would leave it ambiguous.
Yeah, because then it would.
then it
Yes.
is the submission.
Yeah,
Okay, something, okay, submitted during, I'm making a comment for it. Bullet point 5 states submitted during coursework, which ideally could be local scoring
Or submitting to the TPA platform.
or
yeah, yeah.
submitting to the TPA platform
Do
for
Yeah.
people
Wanna-
to score.
Do we want to try and codify secondary pass? I guess if the exam's being restructured, what CTC would then do is just
Yeah, if,
move the passing
Yes.
score to where secondary pass is where they want the passing score,
yeah, and if,
potentially.
Right?
and if there is a
So those
next
are the things
generation.
we wanna
yeah.
do,
Okay,
or maybe that's exactly why we would need
yeah,
a secondary, right?
right.
I like the idea that if you don't pass,
You have other means you can utilize, like
Yes.
modalities. Yeah,
yes, and so maybe it should be put in here somewhere.
sure.
Where would that,
That's structure. I think it's the slide still.
So you want is like a bullet point that says like retain secondary passing.
establishing a secondary pathway.
I'm so excited, Mandy, I love you.
I love you.
Ben. Josh, you're okay. Still holding that little grudge against you, you know? Just kidding. And then Linda came.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Linda totally came. But you know, for the record, I was sent by my group.
Oh, yeah, they nominated you.
Establishing a secondary pass rate with the exam. With the revised exam structure to align with current adopted secondary pass rate standards. Is that
Or
what it's trying to say?
I think, maybe just with current practice or something. Instead of all the secondary pass rate again, because it's current adopted, whatever I just said.
Adopted by the CTC.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I feel so much better, Mandy, because I remember just looking at all this, I'm like, I'm not against any single point, but like the overall picture, I just felt like, but I don't like where this, but now you're pinpointing where my comments could go, because I was gonna just comment at the very end, like, I think this sucks, and I really want the TPA to be like this,
Yeah.
portfolio. Which is what basically we're saying, because if you can do it in coursework, that is portfolio model.
Sort
Ish,
of,
yeah,
right?
ish, but you know what I mean, bottom line is, I just don't want the final submission and what everyone's working for, like,
Like the quote that we wrote earlier, or whatever it was, it should be whatever it was, the element, not the key, right? Yeah.
I'm going back up to rubrics really quickly. Streamlining rubrics and I think the rubrics are terrible the way
They're
written
awful.
right now.
Like,
And so streamlining, I don't think gets to what the changes are we want in them.
And
And
redesign.
this is the only place where rubrics are mentioned.
I would love,
So how should we let's do that as our final 30-second, like, you know, your email's up for the whole world.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was hoping not to, but I just wanted to show this.
Yeah.
So when it comes to secondary passing standard, right, we have to show what rubrics align to what TPEs. So rubric 1.1, for instance, is 5 different TPEs, which is, I understand, great for a summative to incorporate multiple things. But then why do we have 8 different rubrics
Yes.
that are measuring the same domains over and over and over and over and over and
Yeah,
over?
wow.
Yes.
Do you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
no, I
So
do.
which slide are we on now? With
11 still.
11 still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Streamlining
So-
rubrics.
So I do like streamlining. I see the point for that word, but I don't think that's enough.
And
So how else? do we look at
redesign
it?
to prevent like duplication, right?
Readers, yeah.
And redesigned.
Okay, that was Chad.
We got that one.
Oh,
It's
so just leave it as is and.
No, just add that extra word.
Okay.
What was it that you wrote? And redesigned?
I just wrote, okay, yeah, streamlining and redesigning rubrics.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Sorry. Not excited.
Oh God, it's just not.
Yeah, I know.
The walk of shame.
I know.
The walk-
Like,
No, it's the power walk.